What's going on, guys? As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment. Without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So as you can tell, it is the off season. We have all of our winter garden already set up. The tomatoes and everything are done, so they have been cut down. During the off season, we like to kind of keep it steady, so that way a lot of our things are in our workload is being spread out. By spreading out the work, it just makes it a little easier on us. So I just kind of wanted to show you what we got going on. This is going to be how we do our anaerobic stuff here and some of our aerobic ferments. So this here, for example, is just I think it's a pint jar, wide mouth, and when you ferment these anaerobic, they generally let off different types of gas, predominantly, if I remember correctly, CO2. So in order to allow them to stay anaerobic without the lid being off, we don't have any bubblers, so this is just a low-tech version of how we do it. And essentially, as the gases develop here, it kind of just pushes the lid up like this and allows them to escape without letting air in as much. And for that, all you do is you just gently hand tighten it till it stops like that, see, and then give it a good quarter turn, and that gives it just enough to where the lid can be lifted and then go back down with the weight. And so this here is going to be a mead, which is just honey water and yeast. We actually use just a standard bread yeast that you can get from the store. And then this here is going to be more of a rum wine. It's made using molasses, brown sugar, and again bread yeast. The reason we do this is that we can have cooking wine. So the cooking wines you get from the store are generally going to run you about $3.50 each for, I think it comes out to like 0.84 of a pint. This is a pint. And for us, if we do the molasses, it only costs us 74 cents to make 0.84 of a pint. So it just makes sense for us, and it's something we can easily do without really having to think about. So the rum, we mostly are going to be using for cooking wines. The mead here, so at the end of every year, what we do is any honey that we have left over, we choose to ferment it, because we know the next year through trades and barters, we're going to get more honey. Honey doesn't really make sense to make a whole lot of mead because it's kind of expensive because it is honey. So what we're doing here is we have a mead ferment going the same way we have the rum. And generally you can just let that go for about 30 days and it'll kind of do its thing. However, another thing we like to do, and we like to use this for cleaning or some cooking as well, this is a mead vinegar we're making. And essentially, instead of having the lid here, what we do is we just have an old t-shirt that I cut up, and we put the ring on it, so you can see it's oxygenating, and we're trying to use this to develop a mother. Now, a mother isn't necessary in terms of making vinegar, it just makes it a whole lot easier and a whole lot faster. So the first step is you make wine. So we made the mead. Now this we've already bunked, so essentially I've kind of filtered out the stuff on the bottom. You can see there's not as much stuff. Before I filtered it was like this much old yeast and stuff. So I bunked it, split it between these two containers, and then for this one I added some of this so we can start developing a mother. As you can see, it says with mother, unpasteurized, raw, unfiltered, and that's very important, so that way you can start to get that stuff down there, which is mother. Before I added it into here, all I did was give it a good shake. Let's see if we can give you like that, and then you can see all the mother floating around in there. I added a little bit to this mead and then topped it up with water. Gave it a good shake. So it stopped. But before you do the vinegar, it is important to note that the alcohol making process for wine has to be finished for the best results here. And then as the mother begins to establish, we'll keep it fed, keep it happy. I can actually just take pieces of the mother, throw it into some mead, and now within 30 days we'll actually have vinegar versus having to wait 3 to 6 months to make vinegar without adding mother. So even though it's not necessary, it makes life a whole lot easier. And that's pretty much it for our cooking wines and vinegars. And like I said, we just have this going in the background. Another type of fermentation we have is our tomato seeds. So we had our fall garden going. We had some tomatoes that had really good genetics I really like, and I'd like to do a landrace video here soon with you guys. I just started this today. I basically got the seed and the kind of jelly that comes out of the tomatoes. Now that jelly on those tomatoes that sticks to the seed is a growth inhibitor hormone. So the seeds will not grow with that hormone there until the hormone has broken down. Now the easiest way is through fermentation. So essentially, same thing. You want to have an anaerobic ferment, no air. I put the jelly in there, a little bit of a splash of water. As you can kind of see, there's a little bit more of a gelatin around the seeds. And then there's also just some liquid in there. And you just give it a good stir a couple times a day. And it's the same thing. You just loosely hand tighten it like that. Give it a quarter turn. This will ferment. This will ferment just like the wine and our lacto fermentation, which I'll get to in just a second. Now after this is fermented for 3 to 7 days on average, what we'll do is we'll wash off the gelatin that's left on the seeds, and then we'll dry our seeds, and that is how you get your tomato seeds. Now lastly, this is something new we're trying, we have not tried before, but this is lacto fermentation. So I personally do not like vinegar tastes. It kind of gets to me. It's not, I don't really like it. This here is a way of storing veggies without having to add a lot of vinegar and just letting them ferment on themselves. Something along the lines more of an olive. Now these are cucumber that will be turned into pickles, and all I did was add a little bit of garlic. I think it was like a teaspoon of garlic, 2 tablespoons of pure salt with no anti-kicking agents. I just got like a pickling salt from Walmart. Nice and easy. I made spears and just kind of chopped up the cucumber, placed it in there. Now inside, you can see it's the exact same, but in there, that is actually a Ziploc bag filled with water. And the reason is it's going to keep these guys under the water, keep them from molding. Now I also left these in the fridge for 2 days before I threw them in here in an attempt to keep them crispy instead of like soft, give them a little more crunch. And I also right there threw a bay leaf in. It's supposed to help with retaining the crunch to it. And it has actually started fermenting. I have been getting bubbles slowly. In just a few days, we will actually be trying this out and seeing if it's any good. And I'll report back to you guys to let you know if it's a recipe we're going to keep or if we're going to end up doing something different. As I stated, it's basically just a way that we kind of keep the work going, kind of spread it out, make it easier on ourselves by fermenting and just keeping this stuff going on a shelf, out of the way, out of sight, out of mind. If it takes a few months, that's fine. And like I said, we are going to be trying some silicone. They're like silicone lids that allow the gases to escape, and then they seal up, like a self-healing. I'll let you guys know how that goes. But that is how we ferment and stay busy without any waste. Peace, be kind out there, and y'all have a good one.